Welcome back to the Lakeside Church Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Alexander. I'm the worship pastor here. For our second time, we have Miss Becca Baldwin in the house. Welcome back to the table. And then for our first time today, a first-time guest, we have Mr. Blake Martin. He is our creative director here at Lakeside Church. So what you've seen on our socials and what you've seen in our services, this is the man behind the post, the man behind all of the content that's been coming out for Lakeside Church, even this podcast. So, Blake, welcome, sir. Welcome. Glad to have you.
That was an introduction. Thank you so much.
Like, I gotta hype my boy up. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you.
I gotta hype him up.
Super sweet.
Yeah. So I said a lot about what you do here for us, but tell us a little bit about who you are.
All right. Just really quickly, I grew up in South Georgia. My family's been going to church since I was 4 years old. My parents were kids pastors, and so I grew up going to church every day, heavily involved in a church community. And at the age of 11, I would say, I started playing keys on stage at church and fell in love with music, fell in love with worship. And then at about age 16, I started messing around with the camera, started making a few home videos, that sort of thing, embarrassing home videos that we will never show anywhere.
Hold on, wait a minute.
Wait.
We got a
clip.
Becca
We got to do a clip.
last week.
No.
We'll talk about it.
Yes, we'll talk. We'll chat later. Started making a ton of home videos, fell into wedding videography, then fell into social content, started doing socials for my home church, went to college at Georgia College, met my beautiful and amazing wife, McKenna.
Yeah.
Hey, how you doing? And then I randomly wound up here through a mutual connection of Kevin Magnus. Came on to Lakeside as a student worship leader in 2024. And then you guys found out that I did socials and were like, we want you. And I was like, I love this community, so let's do it. And now we're here.
Sweet. Also, a new addition coming to your family.
Oh my goodness. Yes. As of the release of this podcast, we will have had a mini dachshund
Puppy people.
named
Puppy.
Junie B.
Junie B.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yes.
She's very cute, as much as I like to oppose animals in my life because I have 3 children. You know,
Who would love a dog, by the way?
I'm sure they would.
And I'm sure Junie B has siblings.
I'm sure she does. And
Add to the chaos.
yeah, no. Not now. I need maybe when Kate can like dress herself.
Okay.
Maybe.
Okay. We'll talk.
And that's a hard maybe, everyone. Hard maybe. I'm standing on business on that one.
Okay.
But good. Awesome. Well, that's very interesting. We glad to hear that. Also good to hear that like your parents were in ministry as well as you were growing up and kind of had that story of like a family in ministry, and would love for the people and the listeners to hear kind of like your parents' journey as well as your journey on a different day.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to put you on the spot on that. But great family that has served the Lord and has set their children up to serve the Lord too. And that's pretty awesome. So I hope we can all do that for our children. That's a high aspiration for all of us. So I think it'll be good. Just to kind of break the ice for us today, we were talking a little bit yesterday about moments in our lives that were kind of a journey, but that oftentimes people will talk about the worst parts of. Becca, you gave a specific example yesterday about childbirth.
Yes.
And how like that this is this amazing thing and such a blessing, but at the same time when people are sharing it, it's kind of like horror stories. So tell us a little.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy what people first think about with anything, but specifically childbirth. Like, oh, you're pregnant. And instead of just saying like, that's so awesome, they go into, well, when I gave birth or my friend gave birth or I saw this video on the internet, and it's like the worst possible case scenario, which it's so real.
Yes.
Like that is so real. But when you are excited, you just want someone to be like, "Oh, that's so awesome. Yay."
Yeah.
Not like, "Oh, you better strap in. Your husband better be ready to see all the gore and the blood," and you're like, "Okay."
Right.
Like that's enough.
What I always felt was interesting or funny about that is when people would tell these horror stories, they'd be like, "Oh, but he's so cute though." Like the blessing part of it was so small, so small as or even just parenthood in general, or maybe being a puppy parent. They're not going to tell you, or they will tell you maybe about getting woken up at 5 o'clock in the morning, like because you got to go use the bathroom or like
Right.
whatever. And people talk about just like the horrors of parenthood, the horrors of childbirth. And less about the beautiful blessing that is what comes out of that journey.
Yeah.
Some other things I was thinking about was like going to Disney World. Like
The lines,
man.
the price
The
of
heat.
the food.
25,000 steps a day minimum.
25,000 people
Minimum.
in line with you.
Yes. That do not always wear like hygiene
Yes.
Yeah.
deodorant. Like just be real. There's some nasty folks at those places, and you have to stand next to them in the Jack Sparrow line where it's very hot and gross. But
But when you get that family picture in front of the castle,
All the magic.
front of the castle,
All the magic.
all of that just
disappears.
disappears.
okay, now I do need to say I got a Disney story. So like my in-laws went with us to Disney, and we had a very specific plan, and we worked the plan very well because with small kids, it's strollers. Sydney was pregnant at the time, and our boys were just they fight a lot, and they were fighting in lines. And I just remember getting to just the brink of I'm done with this. I'm so hot. I'm very frustrated. But we went to Magic Kingdom to the fireworks show at the end. And my son was standing on the stroller, and he put his arm around me, and Tinkerbell's like flying off the top of the castle. And he just looks at me and he goes, "Dad, I really love you." And
There
I
it
was
is.
like, "Walt, that's how you got me right there. You from the grave
strong
or the
enough for that.
cryo chamber, wherever you at.
Yeah.
That's how you got
Yeah.
me." And but that moment
Yeah.
is so sweet. But that journey is difficult. The journey's difficult. You know, people talk about running marathons, and it's like, oh, the blisters and the training, and then but crossing the finish line, or like going on a hike or something like that. The views are worth the journey.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that oftentimes with church, we can think about our testimonies, our stories of redemption, of who we were before we met the Lord and who we are after, and we can focus simply on a moment rather than the journey. And so whereas a lot of these illustrations have some like pain and suffering in the journey, we can often think about that moment being the thing that everybody needs to hear, rather than the journey that people need to hear too, because everyone's journey is different, and each one of our own stories is like there to help someone else as well. So when you think about your life, when you think about the word testimony, what comes to your mind?
When I think of the word testimony, I instantly think about my dad.
Yeah.
He has a really mountaintop experience testimony where he grew up in East LA, youngest of 10 kids, in a gang at the age of like 8. Every stereotype you can think about, a little Mexican boy in LA, he filled it. Got kicked out of school, all these things. finally graduated from alternative school, went into the military, was homeless, met my mom, and my mom knew the Lord and my dad didn't. They got married, and he gave his life to Christ. And that is, when I think of testimony, I instantly think of that. It's this big moment where he was one way and then he wasn't. And there was this switch.
Yeah.
And that's what I think about. And then I think about my own life of how, I didn't quite have that mountaintop experience. And so then it's like, okay, but God. And so when I think of testimony, I instantly think of my dad.
Yeah. I've heard so many testimonies growing up in church. I remember Easter Sunday cardboard testimonies and having that.
Yeah.
Where they would, flip it over and that but God moment. Yep. And it was, usually the people chosen for those moments are the ones that have, this very big life change from whether it be, adultery, abuse, whether it be drugs, whether it be, anything of that nature. And it's always this really big dramatic thing. And for someone who did grow up, at 4 years old with amazing parents, hardworking parents who taught me, how to follow Jesus. And I just did not have a moment like that. So when I first hear testimony, I think of those big moments of those people who maybe they were homeless, maybe, all of those situations. And but you're speaking truth when you say, like, it can sometimes be the thing that a lot of churches run with in terms of when you think about a testimony. But
Yeah. I have a friend of mine who had a very similar testimony, very drug-ridden past, and came to know the Lord, started following him, and started to preach.
Yeah.
And became a preacher and pastor and kind of traveled around. But that started with sharing his testimony.
yeah.
And I remember hearing his testimony and being like, man, mine's boring. And I almost thought when you were because I knew where we were going with this. So you were talking in my family's in ministry and grew up in the church, and I'm boring,
Yeah,
right?
literally.
You feel, but you feel that way. And I always want our listeners to know that having a quote unquote boring testimony, what a blessing.
Yeah.
A blessing that your parents have led you in a way where those things were not a problem. It is a blessing to have a boring testimony.
Yeah.
And but oftentimes we can feel especially when you're younger, oh man, maybe I need to do some bad stuff. So Jesus is better,
Right.
and it's that's the wrong mindset.
Yeah. That, speaking of mindset, this just popped into my head. I think when we think like that, we're then putting the emphasis on self, not God.
Right.
So when we focus so much on my story, my problems, my sin, we're forgetting we only have a testimony because of God and because of his son, Jesus. And I also struggled with my dad being a preacher and growing up in ministry as well, not having that experience. And I literally did not have that realization until right now of I was just so focused on self of my experience and what was in my control and outside of my control, instead of focusing my eyes on the Lord, because that is the testimony is Jesus and his light in our life. And if my story is boring, great, but I don't want to even emphasize me.
Yeah.
Right? I think a testimony is the power of God and the recognition of his goodness. And when we get so caught up, I'm so passionate about this, but when we get so caught up in us, then we're taking away from God. And I know I shared this yesterday, but when I was in Uganda, we were under this tree and we were in this village, and they said, okay, we're going to do a time of testimony. And so I was buckling in. I'm okay, we're going to hear all these stories. And a woman stood up, and of course there's a translator, but she said, "My goat had a baby today." And I was like, okay, that's not a testimony. And then someone else, but like, who am I? And then someone else stood up, and they're like, "Oh, my kid got to go to school today because we had enough money."
Yeah.
And that is them recognizing their testimony is, okay, this is the way that God is working. Like, this is my testimony. And that changed my mindset completely on, focusing on God rather than focusing on self and what I'm doing.
It's also too not, sometimes it is focusing on self, but sometimes
Right.
it's focusing on everybody else too, and comparing yourself, comparing your story to theirs.
Right.
And
Which is so easy to
they're
do.
not, it's not about them. It's about what God is doing in your life right now.
Right.
Yeah, Blake and I have had conversations about this, and several people on our worship team of what's like, it's even embedded in our music.
Yeah.
Is to sing about. I'm even thinking about, this is my testimony from death to life. Grace rewrote my story. I'll testify. But it is about me, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
There's a lot of personal pronouns in
For sure.
a lot of our worship music, which we are celebrating being redeemed. We are celebrating, God bringing us back to life. But oftentimes we can focus so much on that we forget to say God is holy, righteous, and good.
Yeah.
And he deserves our praise because of who he is, not just what he's done for me.
Yeah.
Right.
And that I think is, like I said, I know Blake, you and I have had those, is like, oh man, I love this song, but like there's a new Elevation song, like that's when I got saved.
Yeah.
Or is that,
Yeah.
And we talked about that because it's like, yes, it's talking about the goodness of God saving us, but at the same time, it's very me focused. And I think church in general has gotten me centered sometimes. I don't. It's hard.
Let's talk about it.
I know. It's hard. It's hard because like everything from picking music to picking topics that are relevant to our congregants and
Yeah.
our kids. It's difficult to. You want it to be personal. You want it to be applicable, but at the same time, you want to give a good grounds of doctrine and theology to springboard you into the following of Jesus, and not just saying a prayer and getting saved. Because those moments, I know when we were talking about testimony, the first thing that popped in my mind is, tell me about how you got saved.
Right.
And that's how it was taught to me growing up. Is like, oh, well, to share your faith, the first thing you need to do is share your testimony and tell them how you got saved and tell them how they can get saved. And it's like, right, yes, yes. But it's not, it's more than just your moment of conversion.
Yeah.
But like you were saying, any recognition of God's blessing in your life. I remember growing up, my grandmother, my grandfather was a pastor, and I just remember so many times that my dad I never knew when my grandmother came to know the Lord, but I knew when, after my grandfather had died, that like there were times when there was like no money to pay bills.
Yeah.
And checks showed up at her house. And I'm not, that sounds very prosperity, and I don't mean it that way. But she would say, these are moments where God was providing for me when I was not able to provide for myself. And those are things that I was like, something's going on here. That's not just, oh yeah, grandma got saved, so God made everything right.
Right.
But the journey part of it, the quiet faithfulness over time, the going to, like my grandma's a prayer warrior. We've always said in our family, like like we need to get grandma on this one. Like, and we got prayers that need to go
Call
up.
up grandma.
That's right. Shout out to Mary Sue. That's her. So, but yeah, she is our prayer warrior, and those testimonies of the goodness of God through good and bad times is, I mean, it's a beautiful thing, and I think that we can rest in that, knowing that when we can display how God's goodness has helped us in any way, shape, or form, that is what will show people the light of what Christ is in our lives, hopefully, and how that could be available to them. Because part of it, as we speak about this, is there are people who are searching for something.
Yeah.
And how we can take those moments of pain, whether it be before our conversion or before us beginning to follow the Lord, or those moments that even after we follow the Lord, like life's gonna stink.
Yeah.
You know, life be lifing, and it hurts. It's hard, and how we react in those moments will show how our faith is and how our relationship is with God. So
You had kind of briefly touched on it, but I even love how, like, generations of faithfulness is a part of your testimony. Like, as much as, it's not that moment that you got saved and from that point on, per se, but it's also the part of your family and your parents pouring into you every single day that got you to where you are now. And God's faithfulness, through them to you, to other people, and sharing your testimony to other people can also, yeah.
And you too, your parents.
Yeah.
Becca, your dad being a pastor. My dad was a singer in the choir and chairman of deacons at our church. And so, like, there's a history of, like, generations. And there's a weightiness to that, too. I've mentioned before, maybe not on the podcast, is I don't want to say I run from it, but being in ministry is kind of ironic to me, because I was like, yeah, I'll never do that.
Yeah.
Like, I got two uncles that are Baptist pastors.
Right.
My grandfather was a Baptist pastor, and here I am at a Baptist church as the worship minister. I'm the worship pastor. And so I always felt at some point it was kind of like the family business. And that's a terrible way to think about it. But it's like, this is what we do.
Yeah.
But what I've found joy in through the years is my family serves the Lord.
Yeah.
Like, and I can not boast in myself or my family, but boast in that, like, Christ is the center of it. And they have taught us that. And when that is not the center of our lives, then it's very clear why your life can be in shambles, or you don't know how to deal with how life throws punches at you because your foundation is shaky at that moment. So Psalm 107:2, it says, "Let the redeemed of the Lord tell their story, those he redeemed from the hand of the foe." And the New Testament tells us we're dead in our trespasses and sin, but Christ has brought us back to new life. And so let the redeemed of the Lord tell their story. That whole idea, the word that sticks out to me there is the redeemed.
Yeah.
And I think that through this, through the series that we'll be going through, is the redeemed and people of Lakeside telling their stories to talk about how God has been with them. And we'll be talking about everything from painful, terrible, awful stories to regular walks of obedience through life. And I think that it's just great to see so many people within our church and on our staff that have crazy, wild testimonies of addiction and pain and loss, and just faithful servants who've shown up because their parents have led them in that way. And it's it's awesome to see. I'm excited about opening up in this series and kind of seeing different people's stories, because we all have a story to tell, no matter how big or small, no matter how radical or how regular. And people need to hear it, because people need to hear how God is working and moving in our lives. One more question. How do you feel like God, like, what's your testimony right now? What's God's goodness in your life right now?
Well, I would, not to be that girl, but I would say my husband and my baby. I never thought that I would get married. I went through a hating men phase in college. I was like, I'm independent. I don't need anyone. And I was okay with that. I also had this deep-seated fear that I would never be pregnant. I remember being in church one Sunday and I started sobbing because I just felt this weight of I would never experience being a mom. I always wanted to be a mom, but never wanted to get married. So I was like, I don't know how it's going to happen because I'm not getting married. So, and then I moved to Greensboro and had this year of really sanctification where I was alone. I didn't know anyone. And then I got Hinge as a joke and met Charles. And the way the Lord had redeemed my mindset on men and on marriage and on partnership and what that looked like. And then in that, now bringing a baby into the world, how the person you marry matters.
Yeah.
Amen.
Amen. And just, I feel like I fell in love with Charles all over again, watching him be a dad. And the everyday moments of when Charles gets home from work and Beckham is now in this phase where he's like recognizing us. And he gets so excited to see his dad. And that to me is my testimony right now of like God's faithfulness. And my mom was like, well, we've been praying for a man for you, like since you were a baby, like for you to feel confident in who you're marrying and all that good stuff. And I'm like, wow. Like, here he is. Like, this is God's goodness. And just seeing Beckham light up when Charles comes home, like, that is it. Like, that is God. And I would say that's my testimony right now of just, I never thought I would be here. Never, ever would I say I was going to be a wife. But here I am. And it's just cool to see the way the Lord has used my marriage and also my newfound motherhood in reaching the moms of this community. And in my job, like, yes, I'm the preschool minister, but this is a family ministry. And being a new mom, being able to walk alongside other new moms and also like make friends who have had kids for a while, and just seeing the way the Lord has used our current season has been really cool.
Yeah. I think that, because yes, I'm newly married, and kind of, backing some of the stuff you were saying, it can be said 1,000 times over until you live it. But you submitting as a man, submitting to the Lord first for not only yourself, but so that you can lead your family, is something that I've been learning. And the importance of being present in that too. Like that, as much as, I've been involved, like I said, since I was 11, I've been involved in ministry for a long time, but that is also ministry and leading your household closer to the Lord every day is something that he's just been teaching me.
Well, that's awesome. You guys are both very young, and to see, I will say, as the old guy at the table, it's fantastic to see young people that have a heart for the Lord and that have a, like oftentimes people who are financially ahead of the curve, you're like, oh man, you're doing so good. And I feel like I look at you guys, I used to look the same way at my buddy Davis Howell, who is, who was the old youth pastor here. I remember saying like, oh man, like you're so much further ahead spiritually now than I was at your age. And that's cool. That's really cool. And some people would say it's boring, right? And but I'm happy to see you guys in that, and kind of walking out your journeys right now, and us all getting to do that together. Because one day you'll sit here, and the thing that you'll be thankful for is that somehow God has taken this bonehead dude from Rutledge, Georgia, and somehow, like I tell Blake often, sometimes I say things and I'm like, where did that come from? You know, like I feel like I didn't know that, but somehow I said something mildly intelligent. And I don't fancy myself to be a very smart person, but I do feel like God is blessing with wisdom and maturity as my kids are a little older. The things that I think about are how am I teaching my kids to pray for people who are hurting, even their friends? And how do I teach them to be an example? Because there are often times that I will pick my kids up from somewhere. I'm like, they were so polite. They were so kind. And I'm like, they got it from their mother. No, not really, but for real though. But I just think that growth and that maturity as a believer, as a parent, as a husband, as a father, all of those things are things that I can say, like, I'm very thankful I could be in a very different place. And I'm very thankful that God's put me where he's put me. And I think all of us, to some degree, can have gratitude as to where God has them at the moment, but also a desire to grow closer to him and to let our journey continue to grow closer to him. So
you keep saying like moment versus journey. And I think that is to hone into that. Like, we think about testimony as just this one big moment, but I think from everything we just shared, it's an ongoing process. Like,
right.
it's a journey of God's goodness. And I just wanted to highlight that because you've been saying journey a lot. And I really like that of everything that we kind of said is current.
Yeah.
Right. So yes, we want to reflect on what God has done in the past, but he's still working right now.
That's
and
right.
that's what's so cool about talking about testimonies is we tend to just focus on the past, which we want to do that. We want to recognize God's faithfulness, but also like your story is still being written right now. And thinking about the generations of quiet faithfulness, what we're doing right now is going to impact generation after generation. Like, whether you want to think about it, Kate's going to be grown one day.
Oh, stop it.
I know.
Stop.
And you know, she might get married and she might have a family. You know what I mean? And so like what we're doing right now, being faithful to the Lord and recognizing God's faithfulness, like, I don't know, I just love the word of journey. So I wanted to just, you know.
We're still here.
Yes.
Which means we still got work to do.
That's
which
right.
means our testimony is still
Right.
unfolding. Like, that's awesome. That's awesome to me.
If I'm not dead, then you're not done.
Worship pastor coming out
That's
here.
right.
we
I'm
are.
sorry.
Worship zone.
Gotta tag a song at some point. Must tag song.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, yes. And also, as we talk about moment and journey, there does have to be a moment.
For sure. Yes. Yep.
And I think that for our listeners, if there is not a moment that is your springboard into your journey,
Yeah.
search in that, because there has to be a moment where we recognize our sin and our need for God, but also we can't think that is the only part
Yeah.
Right.
of our testimony.
And that is a good word of moment recognizing sin, not necessarily a moment where my life maybe looked super dramatic.
Yeah.
Because I think, again, the beginning we were talking about these dramatic turning points, but I love that you just said a moment of recognizing your sin. And that can look, it can look kind of mundane. Like in college, I realized that I was living for the image of what a Christian looked like.
Yeah.
And I was doing all these right things, but we had like this group come in and kind of did like a house church. And I remember just like the Lord speaking to me of, you're not on fire for me. You're on fire for this image that you're trying to portray. And that was the moment of like, I had to recognize my sin of like, okay, yes, Jesus, I know you, but I've been living for like this identity of this Christian girl, of this preacher's kid, not necessarily you being my Jesus. And I think when we talk about testimonies, it's cool of like, it doesn't have to be this dramatic turning point. That moment is recognizing sin.
What you made me just think of now was it just a mindset change?
Yeah.
I remember when back in 2023, it was a big part of my personal testimony that we can of course share at another time. But I was told, I was at a church internship and they were like, we're all going to share our testimony. And I was immediately tried to think, okay, what's this dramatic thing that I can pull from my life somewhere? But they kind of reframed it to me as, just tell us simply, where is God working in your life right now? And I think that mindset kind of change or shift really taught me like, hey, take a step back. And of course, look at the word. The Bible is a perfect example of so many great, big, small testimonies of God's faithfulness and God's goodness in people's lives. And it can be big or small. It's all great. None of it is boring because God's in it.
Right.
But that was just a little shift that I had, heard a few years back that was really, I don't know. It really impacted me.
Recognize your moment. Respect the journey. I think for our listeners, that would be what we want you to take away today, and know that your story is there to help encourage yourself along in following the Lord, and then also do that for other people, because you are creating now generations to come of those who will follow after the Lord, and how we do that is going to be beneficial to us and our story and our children's stories and their children's stories. So it's a beautiful thing. Continue to follow the Lord and walk in your journey, recognize your moment, and tune in next time to the Lakeside Church Podcast.